Franchises are pretty cool, and I don't doubt that many of us are familiar with at least one of them. Who are you? Specifically, though, I'm talking about game franchises. You know, like Super Mario, Resident Evil, or The Elder Scrolls. We've had a fair share of games make their mark on the long history of video game releases. And while it's always nice to see a new release for any beloved series, I must admit, the annual titles coming out as of late have been sloppy, for the lack of a better term. Hey yo everybody, welcome to here. Today we're going to be talking about, you guessed it, game franchises. Specifically, I want to talk about how game franchises have been a useful tool for game developers and where they might be taking us in the future. Now, quick disclaimer, obviously all of this is subjective. You know, there's no clear-cut answer to some of the topics we'll be covering in this video. I'll simply be basing my examples off the legacy some of these franchises have, as well as the current public opinion on franchises that are still being developed. That being said, this video will cover franchises that have been, for the most part, universally accepted as successful or forgotten. So with that, let's get into the video. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to game franchises is their ability to innovate on the genres they're placed in. I feel that a lot of the franchises we know and love today wouldn't really be popular if it weren't for the fact that they revolutionized storytelling through thoughtful gameplay. Looking back, we as an audience have held up franchises like Halo, not only for telling great stories, but also for being some of the best pioneering titles of their time. That's the beauty of video games, creating an interactive story compelling enough to keep an individual interested for hours on end. And even if the story isn't remarkable, it won't even matter, because you'll have the rest of the game immersing you in the world you're exploring. Like, I'm pretty sure nobody is playing Sonic for the story. No, it's because we want to run fast. Another more recent example would be Doom. Specifically, the Doom trilogy by id Software that started in 2016. This series has been around since the 90s, and they all tell a very similar story. I mean, Doom and Doom Eternal were basically just remasters of the first games, but we won't get into that. Anyway, the point is, the gameplay is so much fun, you're not even paying attention to the fact that it's a remake. All you are realizing is that, hey, I can cut this guy in half. This is fun. The next point obviously goes without saying, but despite what a game lacks, if the gameplay is entertaining, people will want more of it. That's why game franchises have been so beneficial. Each successful idea has led to another, which has allowed developers to expand the scope of their games. I mean, take a look at BioShock, for example. For its time, BioShock was an incredible feat of game and sound design. Its freshness came from inventive ideas like the audio logs concept, which was first introduced to games in System Shock 2. And wouldn't you know it, those logs became a strong world-building tool for BioShock, and it even inspired other games like Dead Space to develop the same idea. It also experimented with new combat and puzzle designs, which paved the way for future games like Prey 2017, Bendy and the Ink Machine, and even Atomic Heart. In my opinion, and to the opinion of others, BioShock is very successful, not only as a game itself, but as a franchise. And despite my personal issues with the second and third installments, I genuinely believe that the series pioneered a lot of new ideas, some of which the industry have developed and begun using in a lot of other titles. And there are tons of alternate examples I could also mention. Like, what about Metal Gear? It's arguably one of the most influential franchises in the entire industry, some even arguing that its mechanics practically define the stealth genre. Or what about The Legend of Zelda, which has been widely considered one of Nintendo's best franchises? The list goes on, and thankfully we haven't seen a franchise completely fumble the ball yet. No, wait, don't watch that. Call of Duty. There's a lot to say about this franchise. For starters, it's been one of the most popular series in the industry since I was a kid. Starting out as a first-person shooter series set in World War II, Call of Duty eventually became one of the most renowned names in the industry. It was a successor to the Medal of Honor franchise, which laid the groundwork for earlier Call of Duty installments. But it wasn't until 2007, with the release of Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, that global interest in the series took off. I'm not joking when I say it was genuinely impossible to get away from this game when it was at its peak. Everybody was talking about it, and for good reason too. World at War, Black Ops, the Modern Warfare trilogy, all of these games had phenomenal campaigns, and if we're just looking at that, they still hold up in today's day and age. But now, like most people who've been following the series, I'm not excited for the new Black Ops. In fact, I'm kind of confused by it. I'm going to be completely honest, I lost interest in the series after Infinite Warfare, but I was still cheering it on in some ways. Like, this is a series I grew up with, and I wasn't just going to forget about it. Despite all of them having pretty consistent gameplay experiences, I fell in love with Call of Duty because of the narratives. The twist in Modern Warfare 2 is still talked about to this day because it was just that good. And that's my issue with every installment after Infinite Warfare. If you're going to give me the same experience and the same level design, then there needs to be something there that's, capturing my interest. But there isn't. For me, that's why Call of Duty is a failed franchise. It mastered a formula that guarantees profit, but it leaves no room for innovation when it comes to the story or its gameplay. And this revelation kind of sucks because I remember how much the earlier titles pushed the envelope when it came to narratives and user experience. World at War, for example, had intense, brutal depictions of World War II, and the gameplay backed it up with equally graphic combat. Even the No Russian mission from a 16-year-old game is still regarded by the gaming community as one of the most memorable missions in the franchise. I just don't hear those conversations anymore when it comes to the newer releases. What I mainly hear from the community is everything wrong with the series and how there's nothing new. And it's not just Call of Duty at this point. That statement can be said for almost any game releasing today. But if I'm not hearing that a new title flopped as soon as it was out the door, or that a game released in an unfinished state, I'm hearing that a studio released a game for an IP nobody cares about. And this is my next big issue. Why are there so many IPs just collecting dust when there is a clear sign that people want more from them? I've seen discussions online about it, I've talked to friends about the issue, and we're all in agreement that we need some titles to come back. Now, with that being said, just because an old IP might come back, it doesn't mean it's going to be good. This isn't what I ordered. I say that because I feel that we, as the gaming community, have a partial responsibility when it comes to how games are made and what we end up consuming. While I can't give a clear-cut answer on where the game industry will be going in the future, since, everything is so subjective, there's enough evidence there that we can analyze to maybe predict something. NakeyJakey has a really good video about game design and why we might be seeing certain motives getting pushed within the games that are being developed today. And there's also Noodle, who has a video covering why modern game scopes and community discourse is getting out of hand. And both YouTubers make incredibly good points. The main one I want to talk about is how we're voting with our wallets. I understand that if a deluxe version of a game is available, you might be inclined to buy it. I also understand that if a game you've been looking forward to comes out, you would want to buy it regardless of whether or not it's good. I mean, after all, you can't really know how you feel about something unless you've tried it, right? That being said, we have to stop saying one thing and then doing the exact opposite. If we're mad that game prices are $80 to $90, and if we're mad that games include predatory microtransactions, then we shouldn't keep spending money like we're okay with that. Because believe it or not, there's no such thing as negative money. All companies see when you buy a product is your contribution to their work, whether or not you enjoyed it in the end. It's like purchasing a product from a company that has consistently been making it clear that they value your money over your satisfaction. Why would you spend money on that? Furthermore, why would you want to fuel that kind of behavior from the company? In the end, all it does is just deny us the experience we want. Look, I'm not trying to criticize anyone. That's not the goal of this video. I really want to make clear that I've also fallen for the same exact scheme a couple of times in my life. I know how much it sucks to devote time, money, and energy into something that feels like a ripoff when you finish it. That's why I really want to make clear that we need to start sticking to our word, and we need to be more careful about what we're spending money on. We can't just say the market will determine if we're partially responsible for affecting said market. If we keep pushing a culture today that nobody wants, specifically for our games, then we're going to keep having these issues, and they might grow into bigger problems if we're not careful. And I'm sure nobody wants that to happen when all we're looking for is a game we can escape to. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I hope you're all doing well, and as always, I'll see you all in the next one. Who the hell are you talking to? Get out of my house.